Can you believe it's already February 2024 and it's time for another monthly journal setup? This month I'm going to be using a Forget-Me-Not theme, which will include our Forget-Me-Not stationery within our monthly subscription box, alongside the Polaroid stencil, which I thought fitted really nicely with like a memory keeping Forget-Me-Not kind of vibes. So the Classic Polaroid stencil was one of my favourites from back in the day. It is one of our original classic stencil designs, and it's got one large Polaroid shape that you can make on it, where you have the boxes for the external shape and also the photograph insert that goes in the middle. But it's also got a row of smaller Polaroids which work really well for a tracker, and I'll be using that later on in the month for my habit tracker setup. Alongside the Polaroid shapes, I am using stencils for the fonts within this spread setup, and the font that I'm using is the Become font from our Become quarterly subscription box. I did also use this font in January, but I used all uppercase for all of my headers. But because this is kind of a floral and slightly softer theme, I've gone for a mixture of upper and lowercase for the lettering that I'm doing here. And once the outsides of the letters are done, I'll also be including the middles of the letters, which of course within Upsa Daisy stencils are in a row at the bottom of the alphabet. To fill in the middles of these Polaroid images, I'm using two different washi tapes. So this Forget-Me-Not washi tape here is from our monthly subscription box, so it's a brand new one. I absolutely love the colour of this. It's a really, really lovely Forget-Me-Not blue. And alongside that, I'm going to be using our Daisy washi tape from the Be Awesome range, which has white daisies on a yellow hexagon honeycomb background. And I think they work really well together to give a really kind of spring, cheerful vibe. Spring is coming. We're over winter and we're ready for some florals. So I have laid that washi tape over the shape and then just used my craft knife to gently cut away the excess to leave the exact shape that I want to behind. I was asked on a live stream recently how I do this without cutting through to the page behind the washi, and really this is just a trial and error situation. I have made quite a few mess ups on previous spreads, but because I've done this technique a few times now, I've got used to the pressure that I need to use in order to do it safely without causing any damage to the page. However, if you wanted to try this and you were a bit hesitant to cut straight into the page, you could always lay the washi out on a scrap piece of paper in lines and cut it to shape before you stick it to the page. Remember, it is just paper, so if the worst happens and you do cut through to the page behind, you can always use a well-placed sticker or strip of washi tape in order to cover up the damage that you've made. This is quite a time-intensive process, so be prepared to spend a little bit of time making sure that you cut out the detail neatly. It's a little bit fiddly, but after you've finished, I think it's really effective, and it's a nice way to add colour to the page without using pens or pencils, and also a good way to utilise any washi tape patterns that you have that you don't want to use in kind of a traditional washi tape way. So with the cover page almost done, it's time for me to turn over to the first main double page spread of my February setup, and that is where my monthly calendar will be. For this month, I've decided to go with quite a traditional calendar layout for my monthly spread, and I'm using the Universal Grid Ruler as a guide to set that calendar up. Now, the idea behind the Universal Grid Ruler is that it allows you to split any space, not a specific page size, into a number of columns. So what I wanted to do here is leave a space on the right hand side of that page for some Polaroids for decoration. So with the remaining space that I have left after I've penciled in those Polaroids, I know that I want to split it into 3 equal columns for 3 days of the week. On the left hand side of this double page spread will be the other 4 days of the week, so that will need to be 4 columns. So once I use the guide to see how wide those columns need to be in order to fit them in the space that I have, I've marked out dots at the top of each of the columns, and I'm just joining those dots together to form a grid. With the right hand side of the spread done, I'll then move over and do exactly the same thing on the left hand side. So you can see here that I'm just marking out where those columns need to be using a little dot, and then I'll go ahead and draw the lines following along from the rows on the the right hand side of the page. So basically what I end up with is a really traditional calendar layout with 4 boxes on one side and 3 boxes on the other side, and a header row across the top, which is 2 grid spaces deep. With that drawn in, I can then go ahead and add some decoration. So as I said, I'll be adding in some Polaroids on the right hand side of the spread using the Polaroid stencil, and I'll be filling those in with washi tape just as I did it on the cover page for some decoration. I'm also going to be adding some lettering to the spread using the Become font stencils, and a space at the bottom of this page in order to record my social media stats at the start and the end of the month. If you didn't want to use these Polaroid shapes for decoration, they also make a really nice place to add notes, and you can see on one of the other pages I'm going to use them as a title area, so you can add any sort of text into the part of the Polaroid photo where you would write, sort of the white frame around the outside. And you can also use it to capture notes inside the picture area, use it for a doodle a day challenge. Really, there's loads of different ways that you can use this stencil, which is why it's one of my favourites. I'm now using the Become font, upper and lowercase, to add a header to the page, which I'm doing along the left hand side of the double page spread. So I've centered that to the middle of the spread, and I did pencil in beforehand, and I've just moved it over because I know that my penciling was slightly off. So I'm hoping that now I'm going in with pen that I'll be able to center it based on how much space I know that this header is going to need. And I'm adding in the entire year as well, so 2024, whereas in the penciled version I just put 24, but I decided that I wanted the full year mixed in there. And then to really make that header stand out, I'm going to add a strip of washi tape either side, so it becomes almost like a banner down the side of the page. I've got one last header that I want to add to the page, which is focus. And this will be an area for me to add in my big 3 focus areas for the month of February. So really keeping me on track as to what I should be working on this month. With all of the bulk of the layout done for this page, really it's just decoration that I need to add in. So again, I'm adding that washi tape decoration to the middle of the Polaroids using my craft knife nice and delicately so that I don't cut through the page. And I'll also be using a number of different pens on this spread to coordinate with the washi tape. So 2 different koi brush pens to mimic the Forget-Me-Not blue and also the yellow, and also a Fineliner pen in yellow just to add in the dates to the monthly calendar. I generally like the bulk of the pen within my journal to be kind of a standard black, and the pen that I use for that is my Pigma Micron 04. That works really nicely with stencils. It's the one that I'm used to using, so I go back to it time and time again. But I'd love to know what your favourite go-to pen to use is in your journal, and if you pop it in the comments below, I can have a look, and you never know, you might change me away from the Pigma Micron and find something that I like even better. I think in terms of pens, it's just a bit of a trial and error thing to decide on what thickness of pen or tip of pen you like to use within your journal. The reason I use a 04 is because it works well with stencils, as I said. It's also quite quick drying, so I don't often smudge the black lines, whereas if it's something that takes a little bit longer to dry, I'm quite impatient and I do end up just making a mess on my page. I'm really enjoying this month how clean a layout this is. It looks really fresh and bright and very spring-like, I think. It's quite nice to have this sort of journal spread, which, yeah, it's just almost minimalist. It's as minimalist as I'm going to get because you know that I do love my colour and patterns. But for me, this is minimalist. And it's a bit of a different take on a journal spread that I haven't done one like this for a while. I used to do this kind of layout a lot when I first started journaling. So it's quite nice to go back to the styles that you've tried before and kind of tweak them with different things like the washi tape decoration. I'm now adding a washi tape header across the calendar, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to use the date stickers that came within our monthly subscription box, the Forget Me Not box, and those stickers are the Forget Me Not blue. So I thought having this yellow daisy washi tape as a background would make them really pop out on the page. So I'm just laying that tape over all of the calendar, and then you can see the lines that I've drawn below, so it's easy to follow those as a guideline, just to cut away the excess and make it look like you've filled that space with a hand-drawn pattern. I'm then going to grab my highlighters that I've got to match the colours for this month, and I think this is a really good match. This blue and also the yellow that I add in underneath the little tiny Polaroids. And here are those stickers that I was talking about from the monthly subscription box. Doesn't that colour look really nice against the yellow background? I'm then going to use a yellow Fineliner in order to add the dates into the calendar, and I'm not going to be kind of filling in the boxes that aren't part of the month. I'll just leave them on there because it allows me to add in any other things that are going on in that particular week, even though it's like a month break week. So just because Thursday is the 1st of February doesn't mean that I don't want to include what's happening Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday that week. So I'll leave those boxes empty in order to be able to do that. I do decide after I add in these numbers that I think that the headers need a little bit something extra in order to pop. So I end up colouring in the font so that it is a solid black rather than a black outline. And I use a mixture of solid black and outline black within the spread to kind of play off of each other. So you just see me going back to the cover page now and filling in the font there, and I do much prefer it once it's filled in. I think it pops and it contrasts with the Polaroids on the page. While I'm doing that is a really good time for me to just say thank you for coming to visit us on the Oops A Daisy YouTube channel. If you are enjoying the video that we've put together today, I would love it if you would take a moment to leave a little comment, give us a little like, click follow if you want to see our future content. It really helps the channel and it makes sure that the right people are seeing the things that I create. So with the cover page done, I then will move back to the calendar page and fill in the February title on that page as well, just to make it stand out. And I'll also fill in the focus header so that it's a solid black. I do leave the year to be just the outline because I like the contrast between the two styles in that header. If you're wondering how long in total this spread took to make, I've actually sped up the majority of this filming and there is a tiny bit of editing. I've cut out some bits where I was looking for things or tidying up the desk. So in total, the entire monthly spread setup took around an hour and a half and edited down to about 27 minutes. So you can see how much of a speed up there is. I'd love to know how long you take on your monthly setup each month. Is it a full day? Do you just get those numbers down and get those spreads created and then get on with your life? It's always interesting to know other people's planning routines and how they fit it in. When do you do your planning? This is a Sunday that I'm sat down creating these spreads. I like to sit and enjoy this, so I do the spread setup on a non-work day and then I edit the videos as part of my working day, just because even if I wasn't doing this for work, I would be setting up my planner. So I like to sit and enjoy it, have a bit of YouTube on at the same time, and be listening to other YouTubers while I'm doing my creating. So yeah, that's my journaling habit, and I'd love to know more about yours. Pop a little comment below, and yeah, I will have a little read. So with the headers done, it is nearly time to move over to my master to-do list, and every month I like to create a list where I will include all the tasks that I need to do throughout the month. In previous months, I have combined my personal to-do list with my work to-do list, and I find that a little bit confusing. It kind of gets overwhelmed with work tasks, and the personal tasks kind of get lost. So this month I've decided to separate out the different tasks. So this spread will be purely for work-based tasks, and I'm using those Polaroids as headers in this spread to separate the tasks into different areas of work. So I've got subscriptions for our journaling subscriptions. I've got a launch column for all of the things we need to do for our upcoming product launches, a marketing column, and a miscellaneous column. So again, I'm going through and adding washi tape to the Polaroids. Can you see I'm getting fed up with this now? I'm basically going through and doing it as quickly as I can by batching the sticking and batching the cutting. So I'm sticking all of the washi tape that needs to be trimmed down across the page, and then I'll go through and batch cut across all of the page in order to make it as quick as possible. This is one of those techniques, as I said at the beginning, that I really like how it looks, but yeah, halfway through I kind of curse myself for committing to this because it is very fiddly and time consuming. So just trimming those off, what I will do is add to the top of each column 3 little highlighted lines using my coordinating highlighters with the koi brush pen, just to add in my main focus for each of these areas for the month ahead. And then I'll add in a little checkbox list so I can add in the individual tasks that fall under each area. And then what I can do is, as I think of tasks that need to be done, but they don't need to be done necessarily that day or that week, I can pop them in the master to-do list and refer back to it when I'm populating my weekly spread. Once I have all of my monthly setup complete, my next job is to go through and migrate the previous month. I have done a video about this previously. I have several steps to my monthly migration. I basically go through all of my previous weekly spreads and the monthly master to-do list and move everything over that hasn't yet been completed into the new month's master to-do list. I also populate any trackers that I have at the beginning of the journal, add in any photos to any annual photo spreads, and basically close down the previous month so that everything that I need is in the current month going forward. It really just makes sure that nothing gets forgotten, and it also gives a nice opportunity to kind of reassess, are the tasks on the list things that I still want to complete, or are they no longer relevant, in which case I will cross them off and just move on with the tasks that I actually need to do. So the next spread that I'm going to do is my personal task list, and it's just going to be a single page. So I've just added in another Polaroid for decoration, and I'm adding in the word personal in that become font again. And this will just be a place for me to put in personal things that I'm working on this month, any personal tasks that I have, really to just capture it all in a separate area to the work to-do list. Again, I'm colouring this font in as I go along and just adding the middles to the letters. I love this Become font. It's a really simple one. And if I'm honest, I think when we created the stencil, I didn't know whether it was going to be a favourite of mine because it's quite simple, but actually I really like how it looks on the page. Anyone that follows Ipsy will know that I love the kind of more playful fonts, like Blossom is a personal favourite, but this one I'm really enjoying. And I think it really works nicely with the whole simplicity of this monthly theme as a whole. So once I've filled in the header on here, again, I'm going to add an area with a highlighter pen just for 3 kind of main focuses for me personally for the month. And then I'm going to go ahead and complete the final page of this monthly setup, which is my monthly habit tracker. If you watched my initial journal setup, you will know that this year I have decided to focus on not just one habit for the whole year, but a different habit for every month. So for this month, I have decided to go back to basics, and it's all about hydration. Last month, I tracked a few different habits, and as probably predicted, it ended up being that I didn't track any of them because it was too many things to focus on all at once. So I'm just tracking one thing this month, and that is the ability to finish my 2 full water bottles per day. And if I complete that habit, I will be completing the square on my habit tracker. I have got a year in pixel spread at the beginning of the journal, and the aim is that each month when I finish my habit tracker, I transfer the results of that month's habit over to the year in pixel spread. So my year in pixels is actually following 12 different habits rather than just one. So for my habit tracker, I've got a title in the middle, which again is with that Become font, and I'm just writing small steps because, yeah, basically every day focus on that small habit, and hopefully at the end of the month it will have the result in making you feel more hydrated and hopefully lots of other health benefits as well. And then I'm going to use 29 little Polaroid shapes made with that Polaroid stencil again, and I'm going to fill them in each day using the washi tape on the days that I complete the habit, that is, just to create a really colourful spread. So it's a different take on a habit tracker, just something quite fun. You could just colour those Polaroids in. I'm going to be writing the date of each day of the month in the middle of the Polaroid, which will then get covered up by the washi tape when I complete a habit. You'll see that I have actually got 30 Polaroids penciled in on the page, and that's because I like things to be symmetrical, and 30 fit really nicely on the page. So I'm going to fill in the first one as like a bonus square to get me started. And then I've got the other 29 to fill in because this month is a leap year, so we get an extra day in February in which to complete our habits. So the title's done, and what you'll see with the Polaroid stencil is that the row of smaller Polaroids are perfectly spaced. They kind of playfully angles at each other so that it doesn't look like just a row of squares. But the small boxes below this row are actually the middles of the photos, and they are angled in the exact way so that all you need to do is align the small spaces over the big spaces, and it creates a row of Polaroids without you having to keep moving your stencil. And then what I do for the second row, or like each alternate row, is flip the stencil upside down so that they are all tilted in the different direction, so that it looks like they're all placed really randomly when actually I've just used a stencil to fill in all the squares. And it's a massive cheat and I love it. This is definitely one of my favourite stencils. I'm so glad that I got it out to play with again. So as you can see, I'm just going along and doing the alternate row so that it is tilted in the opposite way. And that is my 30 spaces set up, and I'm going to go in and add in a little subheader which says daily hydration goal, 2 full water bottles per day. And it might be that on days where I don't complete the 2 full water bottles that I can half fill a square maybe. I haven't quite decided yet whether I'll give myself like an easier goal. At least I've given it a go kind of goal. I'm just grabbing that same yellow Fineliner pen I used to add the dates to the main calendar spread. And you can't see it very well on the film, but it shows up really well in real life. It's a really bright yellow. And then the very last thing I've got to do is just fill in that bonus square, and then that is my monthly setup complete. Hang around if you want to see a closer look at all of these spreads. I do just add in one final page at the very beginning, and if you are a monthly subscriber, you'll be used to seeing these super easy sticker sheets by now. So it's a colouring page with a pattern and a quote that is inspired by our monthly theme. It's on a sticky background, so the whole page will stick into your journal, and I'm going to colour that in for a little bit of extra decoration. So here are the spreads completed, my monthly calendar page, which I'm really happy with how that turned out. My to-do list for work, nice and minimalist, really cheerful. My personal to-do list and my habit tracker. I think the things that I like most about this is the colour palette. It's so cheery. The washi tapes work so nicely with each other. Matchy without being too matchy. And as you can see that yellow Fineliner pen really well once you zoom in. It doesn't show up too well when it's far away on the camera. But I've got areas for everything I need, and in my VIP masterclass I will then go ahead and set up my first weekly spread. So if you want to see that and you are a VIP, you can head over to the VIP area and you can see the replay. If you're not a VIP, then maybe you should consider joining, and all of the information will be in the description below the video. Thank you so much for planning with me today. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit subscribe, and we'll see you next time.